Hey, hello friends, welcome to my channel. In this Azure DevOps tutorial series, today let's discuss about what is work item types. Okay, so this video is for people who want to understand in detail about work item types, because in my earlier video I covered basics about what is work item and how do you play with work items, and we saw a few practical session in our Azure DevOps site, right? So continuing with that, let's look at in detail about what different work item types is present, and let's understand the definition of each work item types. Okay, so agenda is, first I will try to cover different type of work items types. Now I have a couple of slides for that. So in my first slide I have few work items, in my second slide I have few work items, and then I will cover about four basic process. Okay, four basic process that is most widely used with Azure DevOps work item types. All right, so one is agile process, second one is basic process which is available by default, a third one is scrum process, and fourth one is CMMA process. Okay, so this is the agenda that we have for this particular video. The reason I covered the agenda is because you need to understand about these processes in order to understand how these work item types works. Okay, that's why I just gave a quick intro about it. Now let's look into each and every work item type in detail. Okay, so here first we have something called epic. Epic is the master work item type, I would say. Okay, before starting this I would like to put a disclaimer. These type of work item types is not common for all processes. Okay, for example, in agile you will have few work item types, in basic you will have few work item types, in CMMI and in scrum you have some specific work item types. Not everything is applicable for every processes. Okay, that's a disclaimer I want to put. The definition is almost similar for each and every work item type, but sometimes it might vary depending upon the process that you are working on. All right, so that's a disclaimer I want to put, but let's see what these are. Okay, all these definitions are most generic, and I hope this should be enough for you to understand what these work item types are dealt with. Okay, so epic. So what is epic? Epics can be defined as a large piece of work that has one common objective. Okay, so you can imagine it as a larger goal of your product. Okay, so if you are trying to build a product, you can think of one common larger objective. That's what you can call it as an epic in real time. Second, we have something called feature. It tracks a feature that will be released with the product. Say you are trying to build a product. In that product you have a feature that needs to be tracked. Okay, so that can be added as a feature. All right, and user story, you might have heard this common term called user story. Okay, so this is very famous with agile processes. Okay, it tracks an activity the user will be able to perform the product. You can imagine a user story like a set of tasks that you need to perform within the product. Okay, so that's what user story is all about. And next we have something called issue. Issue tracks suggested improvements, changes, or question related to projects. Tracks an obstacle to progress. Okay, if you had any hiccups to progress with your product, then you can create an issue which will actually track all the obstacles, and it also will track the improvements and changes and any other questions related to your product. Okay, that's what issue is all about. Next we have something called task. A task work. A task is something which it's a work that needs to be done. Okay, so if something if there is a activity that I need to perform, then you can call that as a task. Okay, people will create a task and assign to me. I need to take care of the task. Okay, as simple as that. You can imagine it as a very basic task. Okay, do not want to complicate things, right? And next we have is bug. Okay, in few other terms we call it as defects, but here in Azure DevOps you call it as a bug. Okay, bug is nothing but it describes the difference between the required and actual behavior. Right, it's something similar to defect, but the term that is called here in Azure DevOps is bug. That's all. So this is our first slide. Next we have few other work item types as well. Next we have something called product backlog item. Okay, this product backlog item is something very specific to Scrum process. Okay, so it tracks an activity the user will be able to perform with the product. Okay, so as I said, it is very popular term with Scrum process. Okay, which will track an activity the user will be able to perform with the product. Okay, so it's very self-explanatory, right? And next four work item types are something which is related and specific to CMMA process only. Okay, so we have change request, which includes information to track changes through MSF for CMMA process improvement lifecycle. Okay, so the change request is in case if you want to track few changes, right? You create a change request to track those changes. Okay, and we have something called requirement. Requirement includes information to track the requirement through the MSF for CMMA process improvement lifecycle. Okay, as the name indicates, it's just a documentation of your requirement that need to be built. Okay, and next we have something called review. Review is something which is a common term which is used across software industry. So this work item tracks reviews and the results. Okay, you build a product, you build it, you develop it, test it, and finally you review it. Okay, and then there's something called a risk. Okay, it includes information to track the work to mitigate the risks. Okay, so if you are trying to build a product, obviously you might face some risk, right? So those risks can be tracked here, and the mitigation plan for that risk will also be documented here. Okay, so these are the most common work item types that is used in Azure DevOps. These are very popularly used. We have few other things as well, like we have something called impediment, and you need to understand about what is test case, suit, test plan. But I don't think it is really important for you to understand how those works at current point of time. If you understand these things, that should be more than enough for you to understand what is work item types and what are the different work item types that is present in Azure DevOps. Okay, now since we have completed this work item type slides, let's look at the 4 different processes that is commonly used with Azure DevOps. All right, so as I said, first we have Agile, next we have basic process, next we have Scrum process, and next we have CMMA process. Okay, first one is Agile process. The image that we are seeing here, right, the flowchart diagram, this shows the Agile process backlog work item hierarchy. Okay, user stories and tasks are used to track the work. Okay, we have user stories and tasks here which will track the work. We have bugs which will track the code defects, and epics and features are used to group work under large scenarios. Okay, and in Agile process we have something called issue. So if there are any issue during your project lifecycle, you can create an issue and track it. Okay, so if you look at this particular box, this says configurable, because in lot of projects the bug is not included into your boards by default. Okay, you have to manage it separately. That is a process, by default it is the process in most of the projects, but in few projects the people want to include the bug in the backlog and include in your Azure boards and track it regularly. So that's why we have this bug as configurable. Let me show you let me show a practical demo of this part, how to configure a bug into your process. Then you will have a clear understanding about it. Okay, so this is a very quick introduction about Agile process. And next we have something called basic process. Okay, so this is the hierarchical workflow of the basic process. First we have epic, we have issues and task. Okay, so this is the backlog work item hierarchy of basic process, and here issues and tasks are used to track the work, whereas the epics are used to group work under large scenarios. Okay, so that's all about basic process. Basic process is the default process that is created when you create a new project in Azure DevOps. Okay, and next we have something called Scrum process. You might have heard about this term called Scrum in the Agile world, right? This is very popular again as well. So here in this particular image, it shows the Scrum process backlog work item hierarchy. Okay, this is the hierarchy of the Scrum process. First we have epic, feature, product backlog item, tasks, and finally we have impediments for issue tracking. Okay, here product backlog items and tasks are used to track the work, whereas bugs are used to track code defects, and epics and features are used to group work under larger scenarios. Okay, finally we have something called impediment here. Impediment in general means which is something blocking your progress. Okay, so if there is a task which is getting delayed, so those kind of task you can create under impediment and you can track that here. Okay, finally we have something called CMMA process. Okay, CMMA process, this is the work item hierarchy of the backlog work item hierarchy of the CMMA process. Here again we have something called requirement and task to use, which is used to track the work, and bugs to track the code defects, and epics and features to track the to group the work under larger scenarios. And finally we have something called issue, change, and risk management, right? So these are the different terms that is used with change management and risk management. Okay, so we looked into the definition about all these things, right? Change request, issues, review, and risk. Okay, so this is the very basic workflow hierarchy of CMMA process. Okay, I hope you now got a very basic idea about what these work item types are. Let me show you how this is available in Azure DevOps, so that you will have a very clear view and maybe a practical view of how these processes are created. Okay, let's go to my Azure DevOps site, and I have created a project called Project Online DevOps Demo in my previous video, so I am opening it here. Okay, once I go into my project, okay, and at the left hand side, at the bottom left, we have something called project settings. If I click on that, you can see there's something called process here. I have created this as an agile project. Okay, so if I click on this, see, this is the agile process. These are the list of work item types that is present in my agile process, right? So we spoke about bug, epic, feature, issues, user stories, and all, right? So these are the basic work item types present in agile process. Okay, and if we go to all process, right, so these are the 4 processes that we are talking about, right? First we have basic, agile, scrum, and CMMI. Okay, so if you want to whenever you're trying to create a new project, you can select the type of process that you want to create for that project, so that it will select any one of this and create a project. So those work item types will be assigned to your project. For example, if I go here and if I try to create a new project, okay, you can see I can give my project name and other details. If I come to advanced section, you can see what is the work item process I want to choose. So here in this project I have selected it as an agile. In case if you want it as a different other process, you can select it over here. Okay, and if you select it here and create, and then it will be created by default. Here I have another project, project Azure DevOps Demo, which I have created just for some hands-on purposes. Now if I go here, this is a basic process. Okay, this is I have selected basic process. If I go into basic, these are the basic work item types of basic. We have epic, issues, tasks. Okay, so these are the this is where you can see the different process and other unrelated work items types to it. Okay, so these are the default work item types that is present for your processes. It is not much customizable, but in order to customize, okay, you can see a highlighted screen here, highlighted text here, which says system process cannot be customized. To add customization, create an inherited process. Okay, if you want to create any customized work type, right? So for example, in basic, if you want to add some other work item type which is very specific to your project, then what you need to do is you can create an inherited process. Okay, all you need to do is create your give your process name and click on create process. Okay, so this is not very widely used because most of the work item types within this project, all these 4 process is more than enough for you to track all your project related activities. But in case if you need to customize it, you can use this inherited process steps and create an inherited add and customize work item type. Okay guys, I think that's all what I want to cover as part of this work item types video. I hope you understood what each and every work item type does, and if you want to do a hands-on, you can go to your you can go to your Azure DevOps site. You can take my previous video, and again now if you try to relate both this by doing an hands-on, I think you will have a very clear understanding about all these work item types. Okay, alright guys, I hope you like this video. In case if you like it, please subscribe and follow my channel. Thank you.